Welcome back to Up North at 4, and joining us now, it's Perry Pokrandt and Rick Miech with Feed Our Rural Kids, aka Fork. And Perry, I'm going to start with you because this week, starting today actually, huge week for your organization. Tell me a little bit more about this week being Feed Our Rural Kids Week.
Well, Nate, that Feed Our Rural Kids Week doesn't come from us. It comes from Governor Evers, who proclaimed May 15th through the 21st to be Feed Our Rural Kids Week in Wisconsin. Really, that's not so much about Fork, although we were perhaps the inspiration for that. But the reality is that children in rural areas are more challenged in terms of food insecurity than kids in more urban areas where transportation and everything's much closer, where we're spread out all over.
So this isn't necessarily a direct line to the organization itself. This is more just bringing awareness to folks all across the state. And I guess, though, just for you, what does this mean for the both of you, really? Just to know, like, hey, people at the top level of our state government are at least taking notice and realizing that this is an issue.
Yeah, it was very interesting in the text of this proclamation. We were recognized by the governor as pinpointing an issue that seemed to have been slipping through the cracks, although there's various legislative efforts right now underway. But in terms of what it means to an organization like us, is that we're very much about the dialogue on this issue. Yes, we have our own things. Yes, we need to raise our own money to do those things, whether it's through our own food programs or our endowment, et cetera. But the reality is the issue is so much bigger than Fork, so much bigger than the challenges here in Vilas and Oneida County, that's where they picked up the name and they ran forward with it, because kids are struggling everywhere.
Yeah, I am curious then as well, because obviously this is a statewide issue. It affects kids in rural communities all across the Badgerland. How much, or is there any sort of communication between Fork itself and maybe other organizations that are similar to in other parts of the state and state government as well, or is that still kind of a work in progress?
Well, it will always be a work in progress. Last week at our Northwoods Food Insecurity Conference, Senator Tammy Baldwin recorded the welcome address there, so that type of thing gets noticed. I've had calls from other affiliated stations around the state saying, what are you guys doing? We want to talk about this issue of food insecurity, and how are you seeing it as being different here than there? You know, the thing that most people don't understand on a purely technical standpoint is Wisconsin is defined as 97% rural. So Wisconsin's rural, period. We're a rural state. And so the challenges of children are really statewide. Pretty much 97%.
Yeah. So this is clearly a big issue, right? And we've discussed this numerous times on our show. And I guess just what does this mean to you, though, at the end of the day, to know there's some recognition for what we're doing?
Well, when we were told that this proclamation was coming, it is a validation of what you're doing on a local level. We often think that we labor in obscurity, but the reality is that people are watching, people are hearing, word is being shared. The internet is very, very powerful. So is Up North at 4.
Of course.
So the message is being heard, and if that can make a difference long term, then we will have more than done what we set out to do.
Absolutely. And I got some more questions for the two of you, but we're going to take a quick break, so we're going to be right back on Up North at 4. Welcome back to Up North at 4, joined by Perry Pokrandt and Rick Miech with Feed Our Rural Kids, or better yet known as Fork. And we just got done talking. Governor Evers made a proclamation saying this week is Feed Our Rural Kids Week, which just sort of, we're thinking maybe a little bit of the inspiration came from your guys' organization, but also specifically a citation was delivered to you guys from Representatives Rob Swearingen, Mary Sfelzkowski. Rick, tell me a little bit more about this citation and what this means for you guys as an organization.
Sure. While Feed Our Rural Kids Week, the proclamation from the governor looks at the bigger picture, this citation is recognition for Fork from our state government representatives, Mary Folskowski and Rob Swearingen, for the types of work that we're doing here in the North Woods, the partnerships that we are trying to establish. Perry mentioned the conference that we had last week. We're reaching out. What we've learned is that we continue to learn about this food insecurity issue. There were things that we weren't aware of. So it was a learning experience for all of us to bring folks together to talk about this last week. But this basically zeroes in on Fork as an organization in the Northwoods and the work that it does.
I'm kind of curious too, just because you mentioned it a little bit, there were some things you learned during that conference and just things that you heard. What were some of those things, and I guess how have you kind of taken that information now to sort of, I guess, calculate your future plans moving forward for?
Well, we're only a week out from the conference, and so we haven't had a chance to meet as a board yet to discuss the things that we heard, but some of the things that we learned had to do with the fact that reaching out to feed people on a large scale may have some negative impacts on other parts of life in general, like the impact on local grocers. So what we heard often was the word partnership and or relationships. And so what we need to do is to continue what we were recognized here for in the citation, is to continue to build relationships, continue the learning process, especially from each other, so that the best practices that we have, maybe it works in other areas, maybe it doesn't, but let's find out what's going on, because there is so much good that's going on in the Northwoods with regard to feeding kids and feeding people who are food insecure.
Absolutely, and you guys do an incredible job of it. And I know, Perry, last time you were on the show, we were talking about the month of May being Give Back Month for the organization. We're about halfway through May now. The goal, $10,000, I know. How are we looking so far?
All right, so the Fork Endowment, which is our financial arm, which reaches out to other organizations in that partnership vein to provide them support, we put up $10,000 as a challenge to help raise money for the Northwoods backpack programs. And so far, checks are just starting to come in because it takes a little while to write a check or to go online. But we feel pretty confident. The issue is serious. The need is serious. And the offer by the Fork Endowment is real. And so if we raise the $10,000, those organizations will split 20, and that gets them about half of their annual budget, which is a really good way to go into the next school year.
Absolutely, and we love all the work that you guys are doing, so please keep it up, and of course we'll be in touch, I'm sure, in the near future. But in the meantime, we're going to take a break, and we're going to be right back on Up North at 4.